My sincere obeisances to each of you, the assembled devotees who have gathered from various places of the world in Sri Mayapur Dham with great eagerness to beg for the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Srila Rupa Goswami describes that the price of loving devotional service to Krishna is only possible through our great eagerness, our enthusiasm to hear, to chant, and to render service to the Lord. Willed to incarnate in this world as His most munificent, merciful incarnation. It is a topic that we can discuss forever. That is wondrous. Krishna is all merciful, and He decided to come in an incarnation that was more merciful than Himself. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Meaning that the fullness of the origin of all incarnations, Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, with the complexion and the supreme love and compassion of Sri Radha, descended to give Radha and Krishna more freely, more benevolently than He has ever done before. He sent His devotees first, many of them, to be His elders, to prepare for His descent. Many took birth and grew up in various places. Then they all gathered here in Navadvip for the appearance of the Lord and to assist the Lord in establishing His Sankirtan movement. We pray to invoke the blessings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our Guru Maharaj, the founder Acharya of our whole international community, to empower us to both speak His message and also to receive His message. Shukadev Goswami was telling Parikshit Maharaj, because you are so eager to hear, Krishna is empowering me in such a wonderful way to speak to you. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in many places in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he worships those who are hearing what he's writing. He takes the dust of the feet as the humble and grateful servant of anyone who is receiving what he is writing and hearing. In this spirit, we are all in whatever roles or positions we may be serving. We are trying to be conscious that it is all to be done in the spirit of servant of servant of servant. Srila Prabhupada explains that the consciousness of the spiritual world is to see everyone as serving Krishna better than us. Now, how can a teacher feel subordinate as a servant to the students? That was the very spirit of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's Jagat Guru. He's the supreme, ultimate teacher of all teachers. Vedaishcha sarver aham ved vidyo, Vedantakrit veda videva chaham. All the knowledge of the Vedas was inspired and written by him. And by all the Vedas, the ultimate purpose is to know him and to love him. Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papibhyo mokshayasya navasaja. Culminates, Krishna says, surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyamni namaskuru. The very essence of the path of surrender is to always think of Krishna. Krishna says, always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me. Offer your homage unto me. In this way, you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my friend. But then Krishna comes in the role of his own devotee. And as Lord Chaitanya, to teach us by his example. Krishna becomes a devotee of Krishna. What does it mean to love? To love is with no other motivation than to please the object of our love. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and we simply want to be enjoyed by Krishna. In whatever we do, whatever we speak, we're trying to develop a consciousness in whatever we think. whatever we desire, will this be pleasing to Krishna? Now, so many people can have different ideas of what pleases somebody else. But who knows what pleases Krishna better than Krishna? Srimati Radharani, who is Krishna as the supreme ultimate counterpart, predominated moiety of the lover of Krishna. So Krishna in the mood of Sri Radha descends as devotee to teach us through example how to love him. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially revealed the innermost truths on the path of bhakti through his loving relationship and exemplary interactions with his devotees. We have been discussing Lord Chaitanya's baby and childhood pastimes last couple days. But now we only have couple days. As we shared yesterday, our acharyas are telling us that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna's pastimes are infinite. When Lord Chaitanya told Rupa Goswami he wanted to describe the loving relations, the rasas of Vrindavan, he said it is like a shoreless, bottomless ocean. And I'm going to share with you just one drop from that ocean. Then he explained, but this one drop can inundate and totally flood the entire universe. If that is the power of one drop, then what is the ocean? When Nimai came of age, there was a beautiful ceremony to begin his studies. And from the first day, whatever he was taught by his father, how to write, what is the alphabet, he immediately mastered it with great enthusiasm. And later, he became Nimai Pandit. He was the greatest scholar in all of Navadvip. And what type of scholar? He had several teachers, eventually Gangadas Pandit, and his classmates Murari, Gupta, and so many very, very learned people who were senior to him. Not only the students, but the teachers of the other students. He was just a boy. He would challenge them. He would state a truth and ask if they could defeat it. they would say, the way you explained it, how could anyone defeat it? No. So they would try, and he would defeat them. And then after he totally defeated all of them, then he would totally defeat everything he just said and show how it wasn't the truth. And then he would challenge the greatest scholars of the world. Can you reestablish the truth? And they tried, and he totally defeated them. And then after defeated them and defeating the premise of the truth he spoke, then he would reinstate that truth and defeat all other arguments. Who could do that? There's the great story of the Digvijay Pandit Keshav Kashmiri. He was the greatest scholar and debater in the world. He was undefeated. And he was so arrogant, because that's the tendency when you have a lot of knowledge, fame, wealth, beauty. You get proud. And he had all these things. Nimai Pandit totally defeated him without hurting his heart. Digvijay Pandit went back to his home that night because he was famous as a great devotee of Saraswati, the goddess of learning. He had a benediction after worshiping her his whole life. She gave him the blessing that anything you speak, I will speak through you. But what Nimai Pandit, who was sitting on bank of Ganga, was just a grammar teacher by Digvijay Pandit's calculation. After Nimai corrected his poetry, he went completely blank. First time in his life. Not a single word could come to his mouth. And when he sometimes did, somehow or other, did say something, it was so foolish that Nimai completely ripped it apart. But he did it with such well-wishing, compassionate kindness, there was no ego, that Digvijay Pandit, his heart was not hurt. His pride was so big, he would have died being defeated in public like that. That night, Saraswati appeared to him in a dream and told him, the mantras that you're chanting to get my favor have become successful today. You have given your life for my blessings, and today I have actually truly given you a blessing. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my Master, whatever I know I have received from him, I worship him. My golden life is loving service to him. That Supreme Lord Krishna has come in the form of Nimai Pandit, and today you have seen him. Now you should go and surrender your life to him. That is my real blessing to you. being the world champion Digvijay Pandit, which in those days was bigger than, what is it called, the champion crickets, what is it? World Cup or something like that. Huh? Yeah, that's all small compared to being Digvijay Pandit in those days. Super Bowls and World Series and all that. This was the competitive sport, was debate, scholarly debate. She said, that is not a boon. The real boon is to receive the mercy of the Supreme Lord and to serve Him with love and devotion. So the next morning, he came to Nimai's house and was offering his Dandavat pranams. And Nimai said, what are you doing? He said, I've come to surrender to you. Goddess Saraswati has revealed to me what a great blessing you have given me. And Nimai said, do not tell anyone about this. And he became a great Vaishnav. And at that time, Nimai had accomplished being the greatest scholar and pundit in the seat of learning, Navadvipdham. And he used to like to argue with the devotees because he was hiding his being a devotee. And devotees would only like to talk about bhakti, to speak Krishna's philosophy, his teachings, his pastimes, his loving relations with his devotees. When you have a taste for Krishna Katha, then all the subjects of this world, we deal with it. But there's no rasa. There's no real happiness in that. If we're void of a taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, then these other things become very interesting. Prajalpa. Because the heart is looking for something to deeply become attached to. Because the nature of the soul is to be deeply attached to the loving service of Krishna. The beauty of Krishna is the beauty that is within everything and everyone. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, whatever glorious, attractive things you see in this creation is only a spark of my splendor. Whatever intelligence, whatever abilities, whatever strength, whatever beauty anyone or anything has, why does it attract us? And why are we attracted to having it or getting it? Because it's coming from Krishna, who's all attractive. So ultimately, we're all just seeking Krishna. But Maya is that which is not. We're trying to find Krishna where Krishna is not revealing himself. Bhaktya-tvananya yashakya. Krishna tells, I only reveal myself as I am to one who serves me with love. Nimai would step in front of a devotee on the pathways of Navadvip or on bank of Ganga and challenge them to a grammatical argument. They would say, please, you are wasting your life and you're wasting your time. He would say, just answer my question. They loved Nimai as much as they loved Krishna, but they couldn't tolerate being with him because he would always distract them away from Krishna. But yet their love for Krishna was ever increasing while he was doing that. This was the Nimai Pandit Leela with the devotees. They were praying, Krishna, please make Nimai a devotee. Then we'll never give up his association. Now we always want his association. But we can't stay with him. And if Nimai becomes a devotee, he could make the whole world dancing in kirtan. Ishwara Puri, who was a disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri, came to visit Navadvip. And Nimai invited him home for prasad. Nimai was then married. Sachi Mata, she cooked. And Ishwara Puri spoke about Krishna. He was staying at Gopinath Acharya's house, and he was teaching about Krishna from the Krishna Lilamrita, a book that he had written. Gadadhar Pandit was his student, and Nimai would come every day. And one day Ishwara Puri said to Nimai that you are such a scholar. Please edit my book and correct the mistakes. Lord Gauranga replied, you are a great devotee. Whatever you say is perfect because it's with love for Krishna. Anyone who sees these relative mundane mistakes is very much in ignorance and offensive. So I cannot correct your writings. And Ishwara Puri said, no, I want you to edit for the people in general so that they can better appreciate. So Nimai came back and he proposed one correction. And Ishwara Puri was silent. The next day when Nimai came, Ishwara Puri said, actually, what you corrected, there was no need to correct it. It was already correct. Nimai accepted defeat. That was incredible. And in time, Nimai went to Gaya to perform the last rites for his beloved father, Jagannath Mishra. And there he met Ishwara Puri. And it was at that moment, in the association of his guru, that he manifested his ecstatic love for Krishna as a devotee. He served his guru by massaging his feet, massaging his legs, cooking for him, serving him. And with tears of ecstatic love and humility, he begged Ishwarapuri for initiation. Ishwarapuri could understand that this was Krishna, who's my supreme master. Ishwarapuri said, I will not only give you initiation, I will give you my entire life. That was the will of the Lord. Until Nimai Pandit took initiation and surrendered his heart in Guru Parampara, Ishwarapuri, Madhavendrapuri, in the Brahma Sampradaya, he did not manifest his love of God to the world. And until his guru instructed him to spread the Sankirtan movement, he didn't begin the Sankirtan movement. Here is God descending to this world to teach us how to be a devotee of God by being a humble servant of a servant of a servant. And the details of these stories are so deep and so instructive and beautiful. When Nimai returned to Navadvip, he was so humble. He was crying for Krishna. He revealed his heart to his devotees. When Srivas Pandit heard that Nimai Pandit is now the supreme of all devotees, we have never seen such a depth of love for Krishna. Srivas's response was, now let our family expand. Lord Gauranga would have kirtans with his devotees. He couldn't teach anything except loving devotional service to Krishna. Because nothing else had any meaning. When he would see the devotees, they'd be at the Ganges washing their clothes. Nimai would wash their clothes for them. When they would come out of taking baths, he would bring them flowers for their worship. When they were going home after shopping, he would go and carry it home for them. He would fold their cloths. In every way, he was rendering the humblest services. The devotees would say, no, 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 please don't do this, Nimai. We can do it. Because the sincerity he had to please them as the servant of the servant was so deep and genuine, they could not resist from letting him do it. So this was the spirit of Lord Gauranga when he began the Sankirtan movement here in Navadvip town. At the beginning, with his eternal associates, the greatest Paramhamsa pure-hearted Vaishnavas would gather together at the house of Srivas, Chandrasekhar, or at his own house at the Yoga Pit, where they would discuss Krishna or chant the holy names of Krishna. And then one day, Gauranga Mahaprabhu stated, why should we waste all the time of the night? We should have kirtan all day and all night for the next 1 year. And then he taught the world how we could do that. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He composed a verse, Trinad api sunichena tarora eva siheshrana. Amani namana dena kirtaniya sadahari. This was the Lord's instruction to his most confidential associates here in Navadvip. And it was his instruction for every devotee for all time to come. We should aspire to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. We should offer all honor and respect to others and not expect honor and respect for oneself. In this spirit, Krishna is pleased with us. Yeyatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna reciprocates according to how he is pleased with us. When we're chanting the holy names of Krishna, it's one of the 9 processes of devotional service. The most important. It's a service for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna is none different than his names and will reciprocate and reveal himself according to our attitude to please him and serve him. It is not simply a mechanical process. Here in Navadvip, Lord Chaitanya described that if you're offending devotees, or if you're offending anybody unnecessarily, because everyone is Krishna's child, if you're unnecessarily criticizing, even if you when you chant the holy names, because you're displeasing Krishna, the name himself will punish you. Madbhakta puja vyadika. Krishna tells, more pleasing to me than worshiping me is worshiping my devotee. Because a devotee is more dear to Krishna than his own life. That is the supreme nature of his love. So they chanted for 1 year throughout the night in Srivasangam. And like the Rasa Leela, Krishna extended that year to be an entire day of Brahma, yugas. But he compacted it all within 1 year. And the wonderful, miraculous pastimes that took place in these kirtans are all attractive to the heart. Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu was in the mood of his own devotee, chanting with the devotees. And sometimes in his ecstasies, he would appear to lose his devotee consciousness, and for the pleasure of the devotees, momentarily he would manifest his supreme opulences as God. But that was quite rare and quite momentary. But one day, and this is very, very historical, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Shiva Sangam. This was in the daytime with Lord Nityananda. And they were just starting the kirtan, and Lord Chaitanya was about to begin dancing. He stepped to the altar and sat on the throne of Lord Vishnu. But this time was different. He deliberately, for 21 hours, revealed his supreme opulences as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to each devotee, he rewarded them every and any benediction that they would ask for. And also revealed to them the particular loving form of God that they worshipped. It is called the Satpraharya Leela, or Maha Prakash. With your permission, may I try to share something about this? The devotees were overwhelmed. They had never seen their beloved Lord Gauranga. Usually, if they tried to touch his feet, he would not allow. Rather, he would touch their feet. And because he had such long arms, nobody could stop him. And if devotees would just reveal their hearts and address him as Krishna, he would block his ears and say, Vishnu, 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 never ever speak like this to me. The living entity could never become God. We are eternally the servants of Krishna. And that was his identity. And devotees had to respect that. He was hiding his truth of being God by taking the role of a devotee. But for this 21 hours, Lord Gauranga hid his role of a devotee to manifest himself as the Supreme God. First he sat on the throne of Vishnu, and everyone was in great excitement. What's going to happen? And Lord Chaitanya, he said, sing the Abhisheka song. Mukunda Datta, the favorite kirtan singer among them, began to sing from the scriptures, the songs for the Abhishek of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everyone understood the hint, and they began to prepare to have an Abhishek. They were offering beautiful prayers to him as the Supreme Lord. Vrindavan Das Thakur describes, according to tradition, an Abhishek is usually 108 pots of water that you bathe the deities. Or in other environments, that's how they coronate kings or queens. But this Abhishek, they were bringing thousands and thousands of pots of Ganges water. And there were hundreds of devotees, and at Haridas Thakur's house, not only all the devotees, but the servants and the maidservants and all the helpers of the devotees, they were all, because they were all connected to the Lord's devotees, they were all participating. There were thousands of pots of water. Devotees were going to the Ganga and bringing them. And they would be given to the hands of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Srivas Prabhu, and they were pouring the water on Lord Chaitanya. And the beginning of this Maha Prakash Leela is during the Abhishek. There was one very simple, humble, uneducated lady who was one of the maid servants at the house of Srivas. She was carrying the water and just, putting it in a place so another devotee could give that water to Lord Nityananda or the other senior Vaishnavas. Her name was Dukhi, which means someone who's miserable. And usually somebody who's born in a very disadvantaged situation is given a name like that so that people feel sorry for her and try to help her. So she was just very simple, and she was just carrying the water as a servant of a servant of a servant, but she was doing it with such sincerity and such affection. Lord Chaitanya on the throne, he saw her and he said, bring the water. And he asked Srivas, who is this? And Srivas said, her name is Dukhi. And Lord Chaitanya, the supreme ocean of compassion, he declared, today her name will be Sukhi, which means happy. But he didn't just give her the name, he gave her Sukhi. He gave her ecstatic love for Krishna. She attained the ultimate perfection of life, something that yogis and tapasis perform austerities, and scholars study scriptures for thousands of births, something that Brahma and Shiva and Indra and the demigods, they are praying for and longing for. He gave that to this lady who was just offering, just carrying the water. So this was an indication what a glorious event this Mahaprakash would be. They bathed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with thousands and thousands of pots of water, and he was smiling, and they were chanting and dancing and reciting Purusha Shukta prayers. Then they dried him, and they were going out and getting beautiful garments, beautiful ornaments, and he was allowing himself like a deity to be dressed by the devotees. Then he extended his legs and made his feet available, meaning he was willing to accept the worship of his lotus feet. Devotees were so enthusiastic, and they offered Padya and they offered Arghya and Janani Vasprabhu. He was probably there, actually. And I can't tell you how thrilled and happy I am to see my very esteemed god sister, Dina Tarini Devi. Who is forever the dearmost friend of our most worshipable god sister, Yamuna Devi. And how the two of them would worship their deities of Sri Sri Radha Ban Bihari. If you would go to the temple in their little home at Sharanagati or Washington, D.C. or Vrindavan or wherever they would be, Florida, it was Navadvip, it was Vrindavan, it was the spiritual world. The atmosphere of their love and their devotion was so pure and so deep and so attentive to every detail for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. That whether it was a house or an apartment, it vibrated with bhakti. So we're so grateful that you are here. I remember once bringing a very, very, very famous person from the West who knew nothing about deity worship or anything like this to meet them. And when he saw the deity worship and met them, he had never experienced the presence of God in his whole life as those moments. You know, we could preach so many volumes and volumes of talks about philosophy, which is what we're supposed to do. But just seeing Yamuna Devi and Dina Tarini Devi's love and devotion to the deities. Yes, this is God. So back to the Mahaprakash. How happy they were. They were offering the Padya and the Arghya and the Madhuparka to Lord Chaitanya, and they were making sandalwood and putting tulsi leaves and tulsi manjaris and dipping it in the sandalwood and decorating his lotus feet. And Lord Chaitanya was just enjoying letting them do it. And they were in the highest happiness. Then Lord Chaitanya said, please bring food. So they brought some food, and he just put out his hand. And they put some sandesh. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said in those days, sandesh means all varieties of sweets. Now it's a very specific sweet. So they put sandesh in his hand and he ate it. Then they put some bananas in his hand and he ate it. Then they got some patty and put it in his hand and he ate it. And he said, bring more. They were bringing more and more. They were going all over town getting, buying whatever they could get. They were bringing him literally thousands of bananas. In fact, it says thousands of bunches of bananas. And they were putting in his hands and he immediately ate it. They brought him thousands of pots of condensed milk and thousands of pots of paramana, kheer, sweet rice, and thousands of pieces of sandesh, and thousands of coconuts, and thousands of pots of fused rice. And he was always just put it in my hand and immediately eating it and enjoying and asking for more. And they were bringing thousands of pots of Ganges water for him to drink. Like the Anakuta of Govardhan Puja. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was revealing himself like Govardhan Hill. Whatever they could bring, he just immediately. And there could never be enough. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he's now in his opulence of revealing his supremacy. All incarnations of God are within Krishna. So he was revealing so many incarnations. Not just in a bhava or a spirit, but he was manifesting his forms. And he was doing it simply to please the devotees. The devotees only wanted to please him, and he only wanted to please devotees. This is bhakti ras. He would ask, I will give you any boon, anything you desire, ask and I will give. And this is how the next 21 hours passed. He was revealing the previous lives of devotees, both in this life and in other lives. Something that they didn't even know sometimes, and nobody else knew. He turned to Srivas, and Srivas, he said, nobody else in the world knows this, but do you remember when you were at the classroom of Devananda Pandit? And he was speaking from the Srimad Bhagavatam. At that time, hearing the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, you entered into an internal state of ecstatic love for Krishna. You began to cry. Your limbs trembled. And you sighed and fell unconscious. The students of Devananda Pandit, they were not devotees. They didn't understand you. They thought you were a disturbance. They picked you up and carried you outside and just dropped you on the ground. And because Devananda Pandit is also ignorant of devotional service, he didn't do anything to stop his students. And when you came to external consciousness, you found that you were rejected and you were just laying on the ground and you felt very unhappy. At that time you went home, and in your unhappiness you began to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya said, you don't know this. Nobody knows this. But now you're all going to know this. He said, I was in Vaikuntha and I saw your unhappiness. So I descended from Vaikuntha into your heart and gave you the ecstatic love of being happy hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And at that moment, all your unhappiness disappeared and you entered into a state of great spiritual joy. You didn't know how that happened, but I gave you that joy. Haridas Thakur started crying. He fell to the ground unconscious. Then Lord Chaitanya turned to Gangadas Pandit. Previously, Gangadas Pandit was Nimai Pandit's teacher. But now when the Sankirtan pastimes began and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his Leela as a devotee, Gangadas Pandit became his, surrendered his life to Lord Chaitanya. He said, Gangadas, do you remember long, long ago, the demonic Yavana king was plundering your village, and to protect your family you escaped and you ran? And that evil king and his forces were following behind, and you came to the river Ganges and it was night and there was nowhere to go. You were searching for a boat, but there was no boat. And the hours were passing. And the Yavana forces were coming. And you understood that they will exploit your wife. They will exploit your children and your family. And there's no way to escape. And you were crying and decided, better than having my family exploited in this way, let us end our lives in the Ganga. At that moment, a boatman in the darkness of night came to the shore. And you were crying out, oh, boatman, please save us. My life, my family, my morality, everything belongs to you. Please save us. I'll give you whatever you want. The boatman took you on his boat and took you across the river to protect you and your family. I descended from Vaikuntha to incarnate as that boatman to save you and your family. And Gangadas, nobody else in the world have you ever told this to. Gangadas reciprocated in great transcendental love. Then Lord Chaitanya called out to the devotees, bring Sridhar. Who is Sridhar? Lord Chaitanya said, go to the outskirts of the town. Because it was now nighttime. He said, go to the outskirts of the town and you will hear him loudly chanting the holy names of Krishna. And just follow that chanting, and that's how you will find his house. Please hear just something about Sridhar. It was so simple. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat tells he really didn't have much of an education. By economic standards, he was in deep poverty. And he made a living by selling banana leaves. But he was so honest. The scripture declares he was as honest as Yudhisthira Maharaj. Now this analogy is very, very interesting because Yudhisthira Maharaj was the emperor of the world. And Kultivation Sridhar was living in a tiny little straw hut and nobody even knew who he was. But they're compared to each other because in the spirit of devotion that they're equal. He didn't want to inconvenience anyone. Now, here in Bengal, there's no shortage of banana leaves anywhere. You know, banana trees grow everywhere. So the whole law of supply and demand, there's not much value in selling banana leaves. But he was so respectful to everyone, he would make his price as little as it could possibly be so that he could somehow or other survive. Yeah. And nobody even knew his name. A few people just knew him as Kolavecha, which means the banana leaf seller. When Nimai was a pundit teaching before he manifested his devotee pastimes, every day he would go to Kolavecha Sridhar's house. He had a one-room, simple little straw hut with a straw roof. And sometimes Nimai would say to him, "You worship Krishna. You're chanting Krishna's names all day and all night. What is Krishna doing for you? Look at your life. There's atheists who are very wealthy, and there is people who are worshiping Chandi or Durga or Manasi or so many different demigods, and they have so much wealth and prosperity and lots of food. What is Krishna doing for you? You're doing everything for him. What is he doing?" Sridhar said, "I'm happy. Happy. Look at your clothes. You have one set of clothes. And they're so old. There's so many holes in them. I see at least 10 places where you put a knot from one side of the hole to the other side of the hole just to keep your clothes together. And your body, it's so thin because you don't eat much. And your house, I see no lack of holes in your roof. Why you worship Krishna? And Sridhar, he said, I have seen in life, there's a king who lives in a grand palace and has the finest clothes and ornaments and eats the most luxurious foods. And then I see a bird in a tree. He just collects little piece of grass to make a nest. And the only clothes he has is the same feathers he wears his whole life. So what is the difference between a king and a bird? He said, I don't really see much difference. Because they both have their happiness and their pleasures, and they both have their miseries and their struggles. Whatever situation one is in this world, there will always be pleasures and pains. There will always be joys and sufferings. No external arrangement can change material nature. It's a place of ever-changing dualities. So I am happy with what Krishna gives me, lovingly chanting his holy names. Now, Kolavechur Sridhar, he had another quality. Whatever little amount of profits he made selling banana leaves, sometimes he would get a banana tree and he would cut it up and sell little pieces of the bark, and he would sell bananas and banana leaves and banana roots. Every day, half the profits would go for worshiping Mother Ganga. He was such a great devotee of Ganga. Who is Ganga? It's not just a river. We're not just a body, but we have a body. And as devotees, our body is meant to be engaged in the service of our eternal soul. So Ganga is an expansion of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She's an expansion of Lakshmi, of Sita, of Radha. And her body is in the form of the river. And her water, it has washed the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu and becomes supremely pure. So when Kolavechur Sridhar is worshipping Ganga or Ganges, he's not just worshiping a river, he's worshiping the all-merciful, all-loving emissary, representative, and manifestation of Radharani and Krishna's grace in this world, who has taken the form of this river. He would give half of his income to worship Mother Ganga. And whatever little was left, he survived happily. And all night he would be chanting the holy names. And people thought he was so useless. Materialistic people would, why you're chanting so loud? You're keeping us awake. And they would blaspheme, condemn him. He's pretending to be some sort of a devotee, such a useless person, poverty, unknown. Because he's so hungry, he's crying all night due to his hunger pains. But Kolavecha Sridhar, he was completely disinterested with what anybody said. He was simply interested in pleasing Krishna. He would probably be the same way even in social media day and age. He just had such a higher taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord and pleasing the Lord that just let it be. So Nimai would say to him, you should give me these bananas and banana leaves for half price. Sridhar said, I can't give you for half price. I mean, I'm giving you the bear less than anyone. Go to somebody else and get your bananas. Nimai said, I know a good supplier. I will go nowhere else. And then Nimai said, you should just give them to me. After all, I am the father of Mother Ganga. She worships me. Sridhar blocked his ears. He said, what are you saying? You are becoming more restless as you day by day. Have you no respect for Mother Ganga? Every day, Kolavecha Sridhar would just be sitting and waiting for Nimai to come. And every day Nimai would come, the supreme goddess, the husband of the goddess of fortune, the most munificent and merciful of all incarnations. He would come for minimum of 2 hours every day to argue about the price of bananas with Sridhar. It never revealed to him who he was. But Sridhar loved him more than, he loved him just like he loved Krishna, but he had no understanding that he's anything but a very restless Brahmin. So the devotees, they went to the outskirts. It was dark. And they were listening. And from a distance, they heard Sridhar chanting the holy names. And they got closer and closer and closer, and they came to his little straw hut. And they said, Sridhar, because now, at the time of Mahaprakash, Sridhar was one of the devotees. He understood that Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Lord. He understood he was the greatest manifestation of bhakti. They said, Gauranga is calling for you. Sridhar felt himself so humble and disqualified. He's calling for me? He sent you to bring me? He fell to the ground unconscious in such a state of receiving causeless mercy. And they lifted him up. And they were telling Sridhar, we are becoming purified just touching you to see your devotion come. And they had to kind of not carry, but they walked him. And they came all the way back to Srivasangam from Simantadvip. How many of you so far on the yatra have gone to the house of Kolavecha Sridhar? Is that part of the yatra? Okay. Well, by hearing, you're actually there at this moment. Because the sound vibration takes us to the place. It gives us this association of the people. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sitting on the throne of Vishnu in Srivasangam and Srivas comes. Mahaprabhu, he says, Sridhar, come. Because Sridhar was keeping a distance. He felt so unworthy. And the Lord drew him closer. And Sridhar said, my Lord, forgive me, I'm just your dog. And then Lord Gauranga said, Sridhar, look. And Sridhar looked up. And now the beautiful golden complexion of Gauranga became the dark color of a tamal tree. He manifested the form of Shamsundar. Holding his flute, his beautiful lotus-like eyes, with a gunjamala and peacock feather decorating his beautiful hair. Kolavecha Sridhar was seeing the supreme object of his love and worship. And just beside Krishna was Balaram. In his Leela, Kolavecha Sridhar was only thinking, I'm a simple banana seller living in Simantadvip. But his eternal pastimes in the spiritual world of Goloka, he's a cowherd boy, one of the Sakas, who's an intimate associate of Krishna and Balaram. So now he is seeing Krishna and Balaram. And he saw around Krishna and Balaram was the spiritual world. And there was Lakshmi offering prayers. And Ananta, with many mouths, were offering prayers to Krishna Balaram. And Brahma, Shiva, Narada Muni, Vyasadev, Sukadev Goswami. He's witnessing all this. And Krishna and Balaram are gazing upon him with so much love and so much mercy. Sridhar falls unconscious. May I continue? Lord Chaitanya touches him and says, Sridhar, get up, in the form of Krishna Balaram. And Sridhar gazes upon them. Krishna Balaram say, offer prayers. Sridhar said, I'm uneducated, I'm foolish. I don't know how to offer prayers. And Lord Gauranga replied, just say something and I will make them into prayers. And at that moment, Lord Chaitanya instructed the goddess Saraswati to manifest on Sridhar's tongue. so that whatever feelings were in his heart, she would articulate it as perfect prayers. And Sridhar offered his prayers of love. You are the supreme truth, the cause of all causes, the Lord of everything. And you have come in many incarnations to give bhakti, pure devotional service. Bhakti, pure devotional service, is forever in your heart. And in Gokul, Vrindavan, you appeared as Gopal to manifest that bhakti. And now you have come to Navadvip. And you have blessed this holy abode with your love and devotion. The greatest of all power is the power of bhakti. Because you are all powerful, but you willingly take the greatest pleasure being conquered by bhakti. Bhishma, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, you made a promise. You would not fight. You would not lift a weapon. But by the power of Bhishma's devotion to protect your devotee Arjuna, you broke your promise and you lifted the wheel of a chariot. You were conquered by the pure devotion of Bhishma. Yashoda Mai, she tied you up and bound you with the rope of her bhakti yoga. And Satyabhama, by the power of her bhakti, you had a whole war with Indra to bring her a parijata tree from the heavenly worlds. And by the power of bhakti, you carry the cowherd boy Sridhama on your shoulders. In a wrestling match or in a game, you are defeated by the love of your devotees. And to proclaim your defeat, you carry Sridham and the cowherd boys on your own shoulders. My Lord, if anyone sincerely prays and begs for pure bhakti, you are conquered by that person. Because bhakti is within your heart. Unless you are conquered by your devotee, you will not give that bhakti. And when you give that bhakti, you are conquered by that devotee. But Sridhar, as a sincere Vaishnav, is declaring, but I have no bhakti. I am insignificant. Lord Gauranga said, Sridhar, I will give you any boon you ask for. Anything, everything. I will give you all the 8 mystic cities. Ask. Kalavecha Sridhar said, my Lord, I don't want anything from you. I'm happy. Lord Gauranga said, ask, ask. I want to give you something. And Sridhar said, my Lord, I don't want anything from you. Please be peaceful. Mahaprabhu said, I am peaceful. But I want to give you something. For my sake, ask. Kulavetra Sridhar said, the only desire that I have is that little Brahmin boy who comes to steal my bananas. Let him be my Lord and Master birth after birth after birth. Wherever I am, may I never forget that beautiful child coming to steal my bananas. Lord Chaitanya, he said, you are so poor. I will give you a king. I'll give you a kingdom. I'll make you a king. I'll give you anything and everything from material or spiritual worlds. Ask. Sridhar said, the only prayer I have is that I may forever remember this beautiful form of yours coming to take my bananas. Lord Chaitanya was overwhelmed. All the devotees were overwhelmed. Everyone began to weep incessantly, seeing the genuine purity of Sridhar's love and devotion. When Lord Chaitanya was Nimai, he said to Sridhar, actually you're pretending to be very poor, but you're the richest person in Navadvip. I know that you have a great treasure that you're hiding and you're deceiving everyone. Sridhar would say, whatever you see is what I have. Nimai would say, someday I'm going to expose you. And I'm going to reveal your hidden treasure. On this day, in the Prakash Leela, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed the supreme treasure of all treasures of Kulavetra Sridhar. The treasure of Premadan, Premanidhi, of ecstatic love for Krishna. And what is that love for Krishna? Natananda chanamna sundarim kavitam vajagadisha kami. Mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhakti rohitakit. Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of his own devotee, was praying to Krishna in this way. I do not want wealth. I do not want the objects of sense gratification everyone is yearning for. I do not want fame, scholarship. I don't even want liberation from suffering. I simply want to serve you and please you birth after birth after birth, in whatever situation I'm in. Lord Chaitanya offered us that prayer. And he personally sent devotees like Kulavetra Sridhar, not just so that we can hear like some sort of a history. He is a role model for every sincere devotee. Whether we're men or women, or sannyasis, brahmacharis, or grihastas, or whether we are rich or poor, whether we're farmers or politicians or in business, or to try to be relevant to all of you, software technology. Whatever your situation is, the spirit and the example of Sridhar is a guru that we must follow in the footsteps of. He actually did his business very devotedly. He would sell his banana leaves. He was there on time in his little house, in his little hut. But everything was for Krishna. And the treasure of love of God is the only wealth that actually has any spiritual value. Everything else will perish. And everything else, subtle or gross, among our skills or among our resources, they all simply entangle us in the network of illusion if they're not understood to be the property of God to be used in the service of God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing Kalavecha Sridhar's only desire, he blessed Sridhar. He said, I fulfill your wish. The treasure of pure love of God will be yours forever. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu turned to Advaitacharya. He would call him Nara. He said, Nara, Nara, ask any benediction. I'll give you anything. And Advaitacharya, with folded palms, tears of love in his eyes, he said, all the benedictions and the fulfillments of all my prayers I have already received. Because the only desire of Advaitacharya, out of his compassion for all beings, was that Krishna would descend. And now, for the first time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking officially the role of Krishna on the altar. And Advaitacharya is seeing this moment is the fulfillment of all of my prayers and wishes. Then Lord Chaitanya turned to Murari Gupta and said, Murari, Murari, look and see my opulence. Murari Gupta looked up, and there on the altar, Lord Chaitanya's beautiful golden complexion became a dark green like the durva grass. He was Lord Ramchandra. Lord Sri Ram was sitting in Virasan, holding his beautiful bow. And on one side was Lakshman. And in the other side was Sita. And surrounding him, on all sides, surrounding Sitaram Lakshman, were countless monkeys. The monkey soldiers. And they were all offering beautiful prayers and hymns. And Murari Gupta sing this. And then suddenly he realized he had become a monkey. And he fell unconscious. This was too much. And everybody's watching there in the Mahaprakash. Murari Gupta's laying unconscious, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the form of Ram, Sita, and Lakshman, he cries out, "Hey monkey, get up! Awake!" Don't. I am your supreme beloved Lord Ramchandra. And you see on my side, this is Lakshman. You have forgotten. I am reminding you. Don't you remember how Lakshman was your life and your soul? How you lifted the Gandhamardana mountain to protect him? And here is Sita, the supreme, ultimate object of your worship, Sita. Seeing her abduction from Ravana, you shed an endless ocean of tears. You are Hanuman. And Murari Gupta remembered he was Hanuman. Don't you remember how Ravana set your tail on fire? And out of anger and compassion for Sita, you set his entire city on fire? Ask for any benediction. I will give you everything. Murari Gupta, he said, I don't want anything. The Lord insisted he ask for something. He said, the only boon I ask for is that I may forever sing your names and your glories. Give me the boon that in whatever situation I'm in, whatever body I'm in, whatever circumstance I'm in, that I never forget you. And in whatever birth I take, please allow me to have the association of your devotees. Not just any devotee, but those devotees who know that you are their master and they are your servants. Wherever I may be, please allow me to be the servant of your servants and always feel myself the servant of your servants. That's all he wanted. We may be thinking how renounced he was, but actual renunciation on the path of bhakti, it's a path by which we focus our consciousness exclusively on loving service to the Supreme Lord. And when to the extent we actually receive that benediction where Krishna gives us that love and devotion, or awakens it from within us, that's our only real treasure and our only real wealth. And everything in this world is just some means of expressing it. It's not the thing. The thing means the object that we're trying to find meaning and pleasure from. Nothing in this world, including our bodies, are that thing. It's that bhakti, that love and devotion of the soul that's within our heart. That can only be realized by the mercy of Krishna. We could never achieve it. We could never attain it. When Krishna is pleased, through our gurus, through his beloved pleasure potency, he awakens that love within our heart. That is our treasure. That is our wealth. That is our purpose. And this body and all the things of this world are ways of expressing our intent to please the Lord. And in a world where there's so much suffering, nothing pleases the Lord by greater than inspiring others to be liberated from suffering through pure devotion to the Lord. When we asked Srila Prabhupada, how can we repay you for this gift you've given us? He said, just follow my teachings by receiving my gift and share it with one another and share it with the world. He wanted nothing for himself. He was living for us. When Krishna comes to this world, his beloved devotees like Murari, Gupta, and Kolavechra Sridhar are simply living to be instruments of Krishna's compassion in this world. Seeing this and hearing this wonderful loving exchange, all the devotees cried out, Jaya, Jaya. And it was such an emotional scene. When devotees are seeing others receiving the mercy of the Lord, nobody is thinking, what about me? Everyone is fully satisfying, seeing the Lord satisfied giving his mercy to someone else. And actually, this is an actual test of how we're making spiritual advancement. And it's a very humbling principle. To the degree I'm feeling happiness when I see someone else getting the Lord's mercy, that's a test of our spiritual progress. If we're envious or insecure about it, that means we still have much ego to overcome. Because the nature of love, if Krishna is blessing someone and Krishna is giving happiness, blessing someone, that's our happiness. And when he sees that we're happy seeing him bless others, Krishna blesses us too. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified Murari Gupta. He said, Murari Gupta, in this world, Kolavechra Sridhar was just seen as a simple banana seller to everyone. Murari Gupta was just seen as an Ayurvedic physician. He was a doctor. Grihastha doctor. And people just see him as a doctor, curing people's bodies with the different types of herbs and medicines. He said, but actually, Murari, a name of Krishna, is Gupta, secretly hidden in his heart. And whoever comes in contact with Murari Gupta, even if they come for some fever or some sickness, along with it, he gives them ecstatic love for Krishna. He cures the body, the mind, and the soul. And anyone who considers him just to be an ordinary householder or doctor is in utter ignorance. What does it really mean to be a devotee? The lesson of Sridhar and Murari Gupta is very important for all of us. Lord Chaitanya turned to Haridas Thakur. He said, Haridas, your body is better than mine. Whatever caste people may think you're in, it's the same caste as me. Haridas Thakur was looking up at the Lord, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reminded him of an incident that happened before Lord Chaitanya took birth in this world. In this Navadvip area, near Shantipur, is the village of Fulia. There's wonderful, wonderful histories of Thakur Haridas. Practically wherever he was, because of his lower birth, he was judged and persecuted in so many ways. And eventually he came to Shantipur. And while Brahmins considered him to be a great threat because he was born from a non-Hindu family and all these other things, Advaitacharya recognized he is a worshipable Mahatma, Paramhamsa saint. Advaitacharya was the leader of the entire Brahmin Vaishnav community. And they became like the most intimate, loving brothers who honored and worshipped each other and Krishna in each other's hearts. And Advaitacharya publicly, in front of the whole community of Brahmins, he gave the highest honors to Haridas Thakur, which was very historically shocking. And every day they spent hours together hearing and chanting, and Advaitacharya would give Haridas prasad. Because Advaitacharya was quite wealthy. And he arranged for a cave for Haridas to live in Fulia. And there Haridas Thakur, minimum every day he would chant 300,000 names of Krishna. That's 3 lakhs. It's about 195 rounds by our standards. And still, he would go out and preach the glories of the holy name to so many people. And he was affecting so many people. He was transforming countless hearts and lives by his example, by his mercy, and by the profound teachings he was presenting. And by hearing him chanting the holy names of the Lord. some of the qazis went to the king that he's born in a Muslim family, and now there's so many of our people chanting Hare Krishna, must be punished. And then some of the Brahmins of the Hindu faith, they were coming to the king and saying, you're our king too. And he's corrupting and perverting our whole religion. He's teaching this sentimental chanting of kirtan. And now they're not coming to us for liberation. For an outcast to be teaching the Vedas as a perversion and a threat to our whole religion, he must be punished. So they arrested him. And actually Haridas heard that he was going to be arrested, so he just came and presented himself before the king. And the Brahmins were there and the qazis were there. And when the king saw him, he had a countenance of such compassion and kindness and purity and gentleness. King said, why don't you just follow your own religion and stop creating so much commotion? Or at least stop preaching. And Haridas, he's surrounded by armies and everything. He laughed. He said, just see the power of Maya, of Vishnu's Maya. There's only one God. And every living being, everywhere, is a child of the one supreme God. And that one God has different names and different scriptures. You have your scripture, Vedas, Hindus have their scriptures, so many scriptures, but they're all speaking about that one supreme God who has many names. And my heart is spontaneously, irresistibly attracted to Krishna and the holy names of Krishna. The king said, all right, so just stay in your cave and chant, but don't go out and affect others. Thakur Haridas replied, even if you cut my body into thousands of pieces, every one of those pieces will be chanting the holy names of God. He was not sectarian. He was simply giving love of God through the chanting of the names of God. And if I see people suffering without this love of God, I cannot sit and do nothing. I must enlighten them. So now, whatever punishment you would give to someone of your religion who has gone to another religion, give me that same punishment. Or actually, he said, if somebody comes to your religion, give them this. Anyways, he was sentenced. The qazis and everyone, they just said, he must be tortured and beaten publicly until he's dead. So beat him in the marketplaces until his life is gone. So they took him out and were beating him mercilessly. These huge executioners were pounding him with canes and with whips. And people were watching, they were horrified. Lord Chaitanya is sitting on the throne of Vishnu. And he says, Haridas, I am remembering this. You were being tortured You were being mercilessly beaten with the intent to inflict pain and death upon you. And I descended from Vaikuntha with my Sudarshan chakra to sever the heads of those people who were causing you such pain. But Haridas, from the core of your heart, you were praying for me to give mercy to them. You were praying to God to forgive them. You were praying to give them bhakti. While you were being in such a condition, you had so much compassion upon them. You were feeling them as good people. Your love for them was so powerful that my chakra would not move. I could not stop them. But at the same time, I saw how you were being beaten. I had to do something. So I laid my body over you, and I took all the beatings that were going to kill you upon myself. And those scars and wounds are still here for you to see. Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu revealed to Haridas and the devotees all the brutal scars on his own beautiful body. Haridas Thakur fainted in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cried out, "Rise, rise, Haridas. See my opulence." And Haridas Thakur gazed upon the beautiful Supreme Personality of Godhead in his full opulence. And Haridas, he offered a prayer. He said, I am the most fallen. I am the most sinful. I'm the most degraded. But yet, you allow me to remember you. Your causeless mercy. Even I can remember you. And you never abandon anyone who sincerely remembers you. In the court of Duryodhana, Dushasana, his brother, was attempting to utterly disgrace Chowpatty by publicly ripping her sari from her body and making her naked. She turned to the king, Dhritarashtra, to Bhishma, to her own husbands, the Pandavas. Nobody could help her. Nobody would help her. In her complete helpless condition, she raised her arms, she cried out your holy names, and she remembered you. And in that remembrance, you incarnated yourself from the spiritual world into her cloth. And as you are unlimited, her sari became unlimited. And however much they pulled off, she was fully protected by remembering you. Parvati was surrounded by evil witches who wanted to torture, kill, and eat her. And she remembered you, and you saved your beloved devotee. Prahlad, his father, Hiranyakashipu, he tried to torture and kill Prahlad with fire, with water, with poison, with spears and swords, with the feet of mad elephants, with stones. But because Prahlad Maharaj remembered you, you were always there to protect him, give him shelter, and give him happiness. The Pandavas, when they were living in Kamyavan, Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni. After you had already eaten prasad, he sent him to your abode for lunch with 60,000 disciples. There was nothing left in the pot. You sent them to the river to bathe, and you were in great distress, and you remembered. They remembered Krishna. And when they remembered Krishna, Krishna came and he said, "Bring me the pot." And he saw one little piece of vegetable on the bottom, and he ate that vegetable. And Haridas Thakur said, after he ate the vegetable, he told Yudhisthira Maharaj, "Now call Durvasa Muni and all of his friends, his disciples. Because I am satisfied, I have given all of them a full meal in their, now they're completely full. They cannot eat another speck of anything. In fact, they ran away. They didn't want to insult Yudhisthira because they thought he'd have a big feast for them." Ajamil, he was the most sinful person of his time. At the time of his death, the gruesome, ferocious forms of the Yamadutas came to drag him into the hellish regions. And he saw his son and called his son's name Narayan. And in that moment, he remembered you. And in that remembrance, the Vishnu Dutas came and drove the Yamadutas away and opened the doors for the ultimate liberation of Ajamil. Haridas Thakur, in his genuine, deep humility, he's saying to Lord Chaitanya that you are always merciful to those who remember you. But I am so unfortunate that I'm unable to remember you. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so overwhelmed by his humility, his devotion. He said, "Ask any benediction. Whatever I have in the material or spiritual worlds, I'll give you anything and everything you ask for. Ask." Haridas Thakur said, "I don't want anything." The Lord insisted. Haridas said, "There's one boon I crave for. I long to achieve this one benediction." In whatever birth or situation I may be in, allow me to have the food remnants that are leftovers from your devotees. Let me, in all births I may take, give me the supreme fortune of worshiping the remnants of food left behind by your devotees. Give me this blessing. Let me be a dog near the house of a devotee so I could receive those blessings, that Maha Prasad. And then Haridas became ashamed. He said, I am committing a great offense. I am so fallen and so undeserving. And I'm so much a victim of a desire for importance and prestige that I'm asking you for such an exalted blessing as the food remnants of your devotees. How can I even ask for such a glorious benediction? My only prayer is to honor and worship your devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so overwhelmed, and all the devotees in Srivasangam were so overwhelmed. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with tears pouring from his heart and eyes, he blessed Haridas that your desire in life is to give Krishna to others. Whoever spends a day with you, whoever hears your words or your chanting of the holy names, whoever even spends a moment with you, I will give them love for Krishna. And you, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am forever a prisoner in your heart. This is a very profound idea. So many people are praying to God for liberation, for freedom. Who's praying to be a prisoner? Who's willing to do tapasya and yajnas to be a prisoner? Krishna. Krishna is longing to be a prisoner, bound by the ropes of the love of a devotee. In fourth fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared, wherever there is pure devotional service, I become a prisoner in the heart of my devotees. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the ultimate benediction to Haridas Thakur. He said, I bless you that you will always please the Vaishnavas. And in this spirit, you will forever be chanting my holy names. We'll have a few minutes kirtan, and then I believe His Holiness Chowpatty Swami Maharaj will come to bless us and enlighten us. Thank you very much.